Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
All right, this is breaking news. This is a video I'm about to show you of a California Congresswoman, Judy Chu, who, along with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, made it into the detention facility in El Paso and now have decided that they're going to go ahead and go on to the detention facility in Clint, Texas, which is the one that's in the middle of the shrubbery, the one that's in the middle of the brush, the tumbleweed desert. And what they found there, AOC has been tweeting about it. Let me read you before I do this, because this is very, very upsetting. I just want to welcome everybody who's listening to us in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hi, Santa Fe. Hello. It's really great to be back on the radio. I'm excited to reach you in this manner because this is really important. AOC was tweeting this morning, and she said, just left the first CBP facility. I see why CBP, and that's Customs and Border Patrol, I see why CBP officers were being so physically and sexually threatening towards me. Officers were keeping women in cells with no water and had told them to drink out of the toilets. This was them on their good behavior in front of members of Congress. It's not just the kids, it's everyone. Now I've seen the inside of these facilities. People drinking out of toilets. Officers laughing in front of members of Congress. I brought it up to their superiors. They said, quote, officers are under stress and act out sometimes. After I forced myself into a cell with a woman and began speaking to them, one of them described their treatment at the hands of officers as, quote, psychological warfare, waking them at odd hours for no reason and calling them, I don't know if I could say this on the radio, so I won't, but a W word for, women of ill repute. He was calling them that. And she said, tell me, what about that is due to a lack of funding? Then she said, now I'm on my way to Clint, where the Trump administration was denying children toothpaste and soap. This has been horrifying so far. It's hard to understate the enormity of the problem. We're talking systemic cruelty with a dehumanizing culture that treats them like animals. Here is a video that Representative Chu made in the van leaving the McAllen, or El Paso, and going to Clint.
We just left the El Paso Border Patrol station, and now we're going to the Clint Border Patrol station. What we saw was appalling and disgusting. We talked to a group of women, detainees, who said that they didn't have running water, that one was an epileptic and she couldn't get her medication. They were separated from their children. They've been there over 50 days. One woman said that the Border Patrol agent told her to if she wanted water, just to drink from a toilet. And we also were there just as a CBP Facebook group posted that they wanted to throw burritos at the Congress members, and then had a very derogatory image of one of our Congress members, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If they have these kind of derogatory feelings about us, you can only imagine what they're thinking about these detainees. These are the ones who are in charge of them. Well, there seriously has to be some change.
All right, so they were able to get inside and people are drinking out of toilets. Now, I just want you to know what the toilet situation is, okay? The Texas Tribune, it's in the homework today, the Texas Tribune article. I did not know that Judy Chu or AOC were going to be able to get into the El Paso prison. I also did not know that they were going to make their way over to Clint until the top of the hour, okay? So, but the Texas Tribune had interviewed about a dozen people who were held there after their release. Okay. And the way that they described McAllen, they said they don't shower or brush their teeth for days on ends. They watch their sick kids cough and cry through the night. And some of them brave toilets so foul that kids can't help but throw up inside of them. There are 200 in a single cage, seated on the floor, standing however they could fit. One 33-year-old man named Gary said, they don't have the humanitarian conditions for people to live there. He said the stench inside overflowing toilets was so bad it made him gag and caused his children to vomit. He said the bathrooms are so full they don't clean them. And apparently there's one toilet for 100 detainees. And the guards now add to that description there that was in the Texas Tribune this morning, are asking or telling women and children who need water to drink out of those foul, disgusting, overflowing, stenchy toilets. That's the stench. That's the stench. And you tell me that this mistreatment of human beings is due to a lack of funding? You know, the president wants to send the children. I'm not kidding. The president wants to send the children now to Gitmo, to Guantanamo Bay. That was news that broke late last week, that the Defense Department had awarded a $23 million contract to construct a, quote, contingency mass migration complex at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Station to detain 13,000 people, and it must be built to last a minimum of 50 years. The Department of Homeland Security had suggested last year that they send migrant children to an old dormitory facility in Gitmo. And now Trump is going to think about Gitmo because Tim Ryan brought up Gitmo at the debates. And apparently, he thought it was like a really stinking good idea.
If you go to Guantanamo Bay, there are terrorists that are held that get better health care than those kids that have tried to cross the border in the United States. That needs to stop. And I think the president should immediately ask doctors and nurses to go immediately down to the border and start taking care of these kids. What kind of country are we running here where we have a president of the United States who's so focused on hate and fear and division? And what has happened now, the end result, is now we've got kids literally laying in their own snot with 3-week-old diapers that haven't been changed. We've got to tell this president that is not a sign of strength, Mr. President. That is a sign of weakness.
This is sick. This is unbelievably unacceptable. This is gross. This has nothing to do with America. America is not that country. We don't do that. We don't treat people the way that people were treated in World War II concentration camps. We don't do it. And you know what? I got to tell you, because they were called concentration camps, and the debate became about the name of what we call kiddie jails. It became about the name. Not that we were jailing children, and children were literally laying in dirty diapers for months. It became about the word. Okay, that's what it was about. Well, a whole bunch of Jewish girls went to one of the detention facilities in New Jersey, and they were holding signs that said never again, because Jewish people don't have a problem with calling this kind of dog pound, this kind of torture of children, wrong. We don't have a problem with it. This is ugly. This is not us. This is not America. We do not prey on the most vulnerable of vulnerable. women and children. This is sick and sad, and it has to stop. And yes, the president heard Tim Ryan talk about Gitmo and thought, oh, that's a great idea. Let's send the kids to Gitmo. No Congress members will be able to inspect. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.